Okay. Now what I can do is cheat. Oops, I'm still in optimize. Got to remember to get out of that. And I'm just gonna hold shift on those polygons, clone to element so it stays within this object. And I'm just gonna cheat that a little bit. And rotate it out a little bit. Okay, go to my front view, unhide all, hit Alt X. And I can move these points into place. So there I have my rough safety trigger. Okay. Nobody's going to be able to come running up and put their sniper scope right in here without your finger being in the way to see any of the mist stuff going on in there, so that's perfectly fine. Oops. Get this guy and hit one. Just going to bring this to a little bit of a closer point, like the actual object. And this one's a little bit more of a rounded curve. And pretty much, in all honesty, that's okay for the proxy gun, except if I unfreeze, well, I don't need that. Just select everything and hide unselected. We'll hide my frozen model. You can see that I got this gap going on here where I got these two floating pieces that it's not doing me any good. So what I want to do is connect them. And the way that this object is that this is fitting into a cup that goes through here, as this is gouged out with a channel, and then the slide itself actually has a guide that fits in there, tubular style, and we're going to basically match that. So you got to remember that a slide is going to move back to about there, so this channel and everything here, when during reload or during firing, if you can catch it at a split second, is going to be visible. So we can make sure we got polygons filling that so there's no open gaps or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is hide unselected here, and I'm going to take this object, select one of these guys and hit ring. Another nice feature, if you go to graphite modeling tools, there's plenty of awesome features in there that are very handy. One of them being ring mode. So I just click a ring. You can see it gets around the whole gun. If I click here, it gets around the whole gun. It's basically a ring mode, so everything I click gives me the ring automatically without me having to click an edge, then hit ring. You've also got loop mode, which will give me the loop going around the whole thing. Very, very handy. You can see it doesn't go any farther than here because it doesn't know if I want to loop down this way or if I want to loop around this way. It can't know. Only I would know that. So they're not, again, they're still stupid machines. So I want to be in ring mode. Click this guy, and even though this has gone around the whole thing, and for now I don't want to be in ring mode anymore. Even though I only want to gouge out a channel up here, I'm going to go ahead and let myself get these pieces too, because it's going to come in handy for me later, and it'll actually let me round out the model a little bit, especially when I go for the high-res model, which I can round out even further. The low-res model, I'm going to go ahead and use that detail. So I'm going to connect, and I want to be on 2 segments, and I actually want to unpinch it to bring those to the edge. Let me check my reference and see how thick that is. It's not very thick, but it's not hyper thin, it's not paper thin. So I need to give myself a little bit of that thickness there. So I'm thinking a little hair less than this. Like that. Ought to do it. So hit OK. Alright. And now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and ring across this guy. I can just hit ring if I didn't put it into ring mode. And I'm going to connect again, but this time, oops, I only want one segment. With one segment, pinch doesn't do anything. However, you can slide it up and down. So I'm going to slide it to roughly make a perfect square here in these corners. Not 100% perfect, but it'll be fine. Okay, looks good. So now I'm going to take these polygons. Now what I don't know, and my reference I don't think shows me, which is bad, is how far back this channel actually goes. So I do know that back here you're not going to see it, because even when the slide is perfect, it's lined up, and when it's putting over, it's still being covered. If I'm looking at the top of this gun down, it's still being covered by the slide. So it's not very important, and I don't believe that the channel goes back this far. So I am going to cut it to just behind where it's going to be visible. The slide, I believe, when it is cocked, if you look, ends right here, which is just in front of the trigger guard. Okay, it doesn't go back any farther than that when it hits the lock. Okay, that's pretty much as far as we're going to send the slide back during the animation. So I don't need to groove this channel much farther than that. So I'm just going to groove it about there, just so it's behind it for sure. Okay, and I'm just going to delete those. And actually, deleting them is not a good idea. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this front one. And now I'm going to extrude these down. You can see I ended up with an extra face, which I need to delete. Okay, here's my channel. However, I didn't go down far enough. So what I'm going to do is a quick cheat. Just going to take this one point here, and I'm going to highlight my Z channel, hit Control C. Okay, that copied it to my clipboard, and then I'm going to paste that in my V, in my Z again, but with all those polygons selected. Now, here I'm actually going to have two vertices selected. You can see right here it says that. Okay, I need to weld those, so I'm just going to say weld settings. I've got a tolerance here. Anything that's within 0.1 distance of each other is going to get welded, which it is, because it's 0 distance between it, which means I didn't really need to go to the options, but just showing you that they're there. I hit weld again, and there you go. I have my channel. Okay. Now I'm going to unhide all, and I want to get the slide. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this. I'm going to do this in wireframe view. I need to get about right there, so I'm just going to get my edges, connect them, and move it to roughly the same distance. I'm going to actually go ahead and put it, oops, a little farther back. Again, it's going to be crossing over, but it's no big deal. Okay, View P, F3, and let me hit J to get rid of that box. Now I need to get these coming down exactly where I'm at. So I could do an inset. However, it insets it here too, which means I'm going to have to manually fix it so that it's inset straight off of the edge. Or, before I did the inset, let me just cancel it. What I can do is I can take these edges here and do my connect options, and I can do a slide. However, you see they both go the same direction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like an interim type cheat, give myself two segments, and I'm going to pinch them until, let me look at the left view here. It's going to be a little hard, so I'm going to tilt up a hair. Actually, if I do the top view, probably be a pretty good representation of where I want to be, because you can see this blue line is the other object. And now I can set my pinch to be just inside of that. I don't want it to be coplanar. I don't want it to spread past it. Give myself a hair distance. Hit OK. Okay, go back to perspective. Hit F3 or Z. Okay, hide unselected. And now this edge and this edge, I just hit Control Backspace, hit J again. And if I hit 1, you can see it got rid of those points. And now I can easily take this and extrude it down about there, unhide all, and now I can move it down. Again, not touching perfect. Give myself let me go to View L here. Give myself a nice 45-degree corner here. Try to match this, which means I've got to bring my gizmo over. Okay, VPZ. And there I have my channel. And you can see on the gun there's a wide visible gap here, which looks a little horrible here, but that's what's going on. Now, I might have actually messed up, because like I said, I can do that. I'm just going to move this out of the way temporarily. What I'm going to do is, once again, cheat. Just going to get this whole guy and move it back. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go the opposite side on this guy. And I'm going to give myself... Let me look at the reference again. You can see that pretty much goes up all the way. So yes, I am going to... It's connected to the slide, the piece that goes back, I believe. Like I said, I don't have a Glock, but here it does not look like it is. It looks like the channel's coming up from here, so that's what I'm going to do. Nobody will notice that. So, I'm just going to take it all the way to the end, and I'm going to extrude that up. Okay. And I'm going to bring this points in just a hair. Yep, I'm going to put this back to centered. Like I said, this is not going to be 100% flawless, mechanically perfect representation of a Glock. I'm not using this to bring into AutoCAD or anything. Okay. Now I don't see through it anywhere. But what I've done is I've got kind of an interlocking system here where the slide comes down here but the back goes up there. And again, I'm just worried about my overall shape. So now, just for giggles, if I want, I can actually round out this, and instead of doing that forward, because that's like the grip too wide compared to what it really is, let me go View F and Alt X, unhide all. Just going to give myself a slight bit of a curve, go back to about there. Alt X so I can see it. I'm going to get this guy, and I'm going to loop it to get a few more of those. And I can move that in to help round that out. Which means I need to kind of match that. Okay, just go VF real quick so I can see if I'm way off here. Just need to go back a little further. Give a little bit of a rounding to that. It's actually rounded here too, which means I need to get all of these guys here. Can't rotate too far around to the back. And just kind of bring that in. And I believe that if I just get this edge and this edge, bring it up a little bit. That does pretty good there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to center that as best I can, because the curve is more dramatic here. It tightens here. It's very curved right here, which I can fix in the high-res version later to give myself much more of a smoothing. But in this low-res proxy, I'm just going to keep it relatively flat. Now, if I accidentally broke the planar aspects of this by doing that on accident, I can actually come here, select these faces, and say make planar. I don't have to pick an axis. I can say make planar, and it's going to pick the most average axis. So it flattened that out perfect, but it didn't flatten it out like that in the X. Kept it at its angle, which is actually what I want. Okay. Let me get rid of that edge and pick this one. I'll go ahead and move that up just a little bit. Give myself a little bit of rounding going on there. There is not a lot of rounding going on here. It's pretty flat. There's a round corner here, which I'll chamfer later. But the gun itself is not much more round than that. The gun is actually relatively square. If I control A and hide selection, just look at the thing. It's pretty square. It's got nice smooth curvatures going around here, but it's got some little thumb guard thing here that's nice, and each of these corners and everything is smoothed over. But without these corners being smooth, this is very, very square. So this is one of the beauties of this weapon is its simplicity. It's very, very to the point, and that's what we're going for on the model as well. Like I said, if you don't like the Glock, that's fine. You don't have to use a Glock. You know, I don't own a Glock. I own a Beretta. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this here to let me round this part too. So I'm just going to connect that. And actually, I'm going to see if this little gem of a tool, there's flow connect here. See how it rounded that for me? Flow connect tries to maintain the curve between points. So now I can do my freeform, optimize, and hold control, and just connect those up. And what I can do is I can make it planar in the X and the Z, not the Y, but now it's a perfect line going down that I can adjust this curve. Oops, forgot to come out of optimize. Adjust this curve back and forth. It's going to stay clean for me. You can see here that I made a mistake. This actually does poke out a hair, which means that this guy here, I should have just inset instead of do that little segmenting thing. But for the low-res guy, I'm not going to worry about it. What I could do instead would be to get this face, get all this stuff out of the way, and I can extrude that out. Okay, then I can hit 1 and get all these verts. Go to View F, VF, and Alt X. and move that whole thing back. And move that guy forward. Alt X to get back. Okay. Now if I didn't like these segments, I can hit loop, I believe. Go all the way around, just hit Control Backspace, gets rid of it. Of course, I now have a more than 4-sided polygon right here, so I can just optimize that to the corner. And there. Right click so I'm out of it. Okay. So far I think it's okay. Make sure I save my scene, which I haven't done at all. So if I had a crash, it would have been catastrophic, to say the least. So just going to call this Glock model. I'm going to call it LR for now, for low res. Save. Okay, now I'm saved. So I made a mistake here. If I take this object, hide unselected, so it's just this object. When I pulled these forward, I left this down here. So I need to get that in line, and I don't know exactly where that is, so move it anywhere. And I'm just going to copy my X coordinate here. Just a note, if I pick this and I double click, it does not get the negative sign, which I need, so I have to drag. And now I can just paste that, and that's in line. I could have, yes, said, okay, make planar in the X. However, if I do that, it's an average distance, so it moves it back really far. So that's why I copied and pasted. Oops, I just copied that. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so unhide all. Good to go. Other thing I've noticed is that, oops, the trigger guard is not as thick as the rest of the gun. Comes in a bit. Let's check the. It's a relatively good distance. Let's say maybe a quarter of the way in or so. So let's bring that in like that. And which means now I need to move this up. And I need to move this back to maintain my curve here so that it's actually drawing out of there. And let me check, see if I need to clean anything up here, which it looks like I actually do. I can do that easy with the Optimize tool. Just hold Control, connect that. Okay, you can see I'm a little off here, which would make it so I'd want to move these edges back some to be more in line. And now if I look at my front view, you can see I'm missing quite dramatically, so I need to pull this out. And it's really just me making an error, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ring inside here. I'm going to hit my connect, 2 segments, and I want to not have any slides. I'm just going to type in there. And let's go to my left view and hit F3 so I can see. Oops. I'm going to move my pinch in to kind of match down here, I think. Might be matching the wrong thing. I have to look at it in perspective view. That's okay. And then what I can do is I can just take these 2 polygons. Actually, let's just try this one. Move that to be in line. And that actually doesn't look too shabby, I don't think. Looks alright. Hit F4 to get rid of my segments and check it. You can see I got a little wonkiness going on here. I might probably not be able to make planar on that. And I don't like doing that, so let's just go here and fix manually. Okay, what I need to do is take a look here, connect these. So I'm going to go optimize. I'm going to hit F4 so you can see my edges. And I'm going to bring this out, this out. I'm going to bring this up, and this up. I'm also going to do the same thing down here. Alt X, look at the front. Now I can come out of optimize here, and I can go back to connect with one segment and refix my curve. Gonna give it 2. And that doesn't look too awful. Now the same curve I got here on the gun, swinging here, is not the same here. You can see that it tightens a lot and then rounds out, starting at about here. So in a lot of ways, what I've got is actually kind of okay. I'm just gonna bring that a little bit closer, and then move these guys up a little less than what's going on here in this front curve. I do need to round it out a lot more when I go to do this. Let me just get that to try to be in line here. And that should be okay. Now, this is the low res model butt. I am going to give myself a little more detail. Just going to constrain by edge here. I'm going to stop saying Alt X. And I'm going to move that out to give myself that guy. And I'm going to make these little dips, finger grips. Oops. Okay. Again, I didn't cut all the way across here because this shape back here is okay for now. So I'm just connecting the front again. Very unconcerned with keeping quads. Some people have that as a hard and fast rule. Stay quad, no matter what. And that's perfectly good for a million situations, but there's another million situations where you don't need it. This being one of them. Okay, that looks better. Much more Glockish. Okay. Hide unselected, so I just get rid of all that stuff. And now, just going to change the color to a darkish gray. I hit a custom color here. Go to black, saturation off, get about like that, add color, pick that color, hit OK. It'll be a little darker than that, but it's okay. Now what I want to do is I want to just roughly see what happens if I auto smooth my smoothing groups. It's not awful, but it did miss a couple things like these. Some of the other stuff over here. No big whoop. I know this is immensely square, but if you look at our poly count, it's very low, not even at 1,000 yet, so we got space to do plenty of detailing. Like I said, I'm going to hit roughly 5 to 10,000 polygons, assuming it's going to be a little closer to 5 than 10, but I am not stopping until the detail is there that it needs. I won't go over 10 though. I'll start cutting out if I need to, on other things if I really need to. Now let's just double check the reference. You can see I got a shell ejection port here that looks like I don't have a good reference of that. I guess that's pretty good, except that's the slide back. Maybe if I cheat here real quick and move that forward, which is weird, huh? Like, why is that so far back from that? I guess it's a different model. It looks like it's about at the back of the trigger to the back of the front of the trigger guard, so it's coming off the right side of the gun. So let's add that really quick. Looks like about our point here to about here. So I am just going to eyeball this, as I've done so often. Oops. Just want the one segment. Oops. About there. We'll say that's pretty decent. And what I'm going to do is going to extrude this by local. I'm going to keep it on group just to show you what's going to happen if I go extreme. It's going at a funny angle. But if I go local normal, you can see it, when I went too far it collapsed. However, if I bring it just in, you can see it's clicking it individually gives you a little bit better. You can also tell, I don't know if you can see it, but this distance and this distance are off. Brought these in farther. Easy fix. Just hit this. Make that planar in the Y. No. Make that planar in the X. Nope. Z. I never did collapse the X form on this. I'll do that real quick. Reset selected, and I'll just convert back to editable poly as an OK ejection port. Let's take these two segments only, not looping around for quads. And 2, and I'm gonna spread it out a little bit. A little hard to see the tiny little edge moving around, but they're there. If I move them down, round that out a little bit. And I may, if I look at the reference, it looks like it goes pretty close to across the whole top of this guy. So I'm going to go about there. And I got a problem here. Item selected, which looks like I have a split vert somewhere that I really should weld. So I'm going to go optimize, hold shift, and just drag that over. Okay. These edges here, they're going back. don't need them. And then if I hold control, I can just fix my three-sided polygons easy, and I can fix that too. So I got quads and tris. Same thing I need to do here. Okay. Don't necessarily need this for the low-res mesh, however, in the real model it's very round. Okay, so I'm going to keep it for now, and what I'm going to do is actually grab those two, then unhide all. Gonna move that up. Grab these, hide on selected. I need to get these guys too. That's not split. Should have seen that. So I can easily fix that by just hitting it with a connect. Now I can get these. Unhide all. You can see it got pretty ugly in the front here. So what I could do is get rid of those edges and instead connect it across this way, and then we could do, which is not the greatest thing that you can do, just put points in manually by hitting insert vertex while you're on edge, and now I can just hold control and drag across that. Drag across that, and that's pretty clean now. Lighting's good. And just as a double check, I'm going to check my Y axis here. You can see I'm a little off. Copy it here and paste it here. Now I'm in a dead straight line with this stuff, which actually is not the line I want to be on. I want to be in line with that. Same thing on this guy. Okay. And now when I'm ready, I can chamfer these corners no problem to make a very roundish curve. Just for the sake of giggles, just go ahead and connect this. I'm going to tell this to constrain by edge, then make planar. And if I look at my reference, at some point here, this actually starts to curve up, and it looks like it's a little behind the 50% mark. So about there, when this actually starts to move, let's oops, I'm still on edge. Move that up a little bit. I'll go a little bit farther than it should be. That tightens that gap. You can see my gap's a little wide here if I look at the reference. Let's select all real quick and hide it so I can look at the picture instead of shooting over to Photoshop. It doesn't look like at any point. I'm trying to figure out at what point is this thickness starting to differ from this thickness, and I can't tell if this is curving up or if the slide is curving down. Considering that this is the plastic and this is the metal, I'm going to assume that this is what's curving up, because look how much tighter that is than that. And on my gun, it's very straight and slightly obnoxious. Now what I can do is do the whole thing up just a little, even though it might not be to speculation. I can tick it up in the Z, tick, 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 and then I can actually bring this guy up a couple more, tick, tick it. So it starts to curve back, very unnoticeable curve. However, at the front and the back, that gap is just not as ugly, which was bugging me a little bit. So let me get this face back here, because I know I broke that, and make that planar again. That works. Okay. And now I'm going to say that that is pretty much a Glock, save for the missing curves here on this guy. So what I'm going to do is, at this point, I'm going to save my scene, and now I'm going to switch over and start producing it in high res. Okay, that is a low res proxy mesh I'm going to use for my animations. It's roughly 1,000 polygons, separate parts right now, it's fine. But now I'm ready to go further, and I wouldn't necessarily want to go much farther using this version of the model. Again, this version of the model will be made available for free. You can use it, you can take it and clean it up. Obviously, if you need it to be quads, you will have to do some cutting and optimizing and clipping here and there to get it to be back to quads. Good luck here making that quads. You're going to need to cut all the way around here, shoot those segments all the way down. It's, to me, just not worth it. And like I said, this is not going to be a turbo smooth model. It's not going to be sculpted. It's just going to be as is. It's going to be painted, and that's it. And the paint will apply nicely once this gets unwrapped. I will run through the unwrap. Actually, let me just go ahead and do that now. However, I will be cheating. There is not going to be an awful lot of application on what I'm doing for you in Max. If you look at the Max unwrap modifier, it's not the worst thing in the world. If I just hit checker here, but I personally don't like using it because it's convoluted and it fails, even Max 12. I know they've made leaps and bounds with what you can do with it, but I still don't like it. I have a separate app that I use for it, and it's an excellent application. It is called Unfold 3D. If you ever get a chance to get it. Make your life a lot easier. Not that it removes the work. You still have to do the work. It's just the interface. I like it. It's cleaner and easier to see. So what I need to do is I need to export, select an OBJ, call it Glock OBJ, export, done. Okay, I'm going to start this other program. You can unwrap this in Max. There's no issues with it. Let me shrink this window down. This is Unfold 3D application. It won't actually go any smaller than this. So all I do is I go File Load, and go to my Glock 2 UV and I load this. It actually is a nice feature. It tells me that I've got errors, too small or too large of an angle. Okay, so it gives me a heads up of what I could possibly need to fix, and actually will even highlight what's wrong on the model. It looks like I probably have a double vert right there. Well, let's check. 2 vertices selected, okay, which is, if I hit Z, it's all coplanar. So just as a quick check, I'm going to hit Control A and go to my weld options, point 1. You can see I had 3 verts that were pretty much co-existing in the same space, so welding those is a good check, so thank you other program. So export selected again. Yes, export, done. Okay, open up this. I can just go File, Reload, and now it's clean. Okay, and all I need to do is hold Shift and click an edge, and then I can hold Alt, and I can just start slinging around all my edges, and it will basically do a point-to-point selection. Oh, well, that's one outcome. Okay, let's do that again. It crashed. Not sure why. Like I said, this program does not eliminate the work that you have to do. However, it's just easier to see. In Max, I tend to actually keep losing what my edges are supposed to be. I might not be doing this in the best manner right now. Just trying to get through it quick. Show you how I go about this stuff. It's easy for me. Again, using this Unfold 3D program, which is a dream come true. I went to the bottom one here. It's going to need help here for sure. You can see I went high there. It's no biggie. Try to avoid any overly long pieces, because I want to be able to unwrap nicely. I want to be able to fit it in my coordinate space. The point of this tutorial was modeling, animating rigging, not unwrapping, which is, excuse me, kind of a common practice that you have to do no matter what. However, in Max 2012, it is roughly the same thing. You're basically picking point to point and letting it do its unfold, either using Pelt or the new fan-dangled peel, which fails for me all the time, especially on cylinders for some dumb reason. Okay, just keep going around this guy. I'm just doing point to point like I would in Max, Maya, any of those other apps. Except I'm not doing by points, I'm doing it by edges. And I can scrub across the edges, which is, if I hold shift and scroll across, it picks it up. I can basically paint my selections, in essence, which is nice. I don't know if this is enough. but it will tell me if I cut it and unwrap it. Anything that comes out orange I need to fix. I can see where it's got problems here, so orange stuff is got issues. So I could help it out by making additional cuts. Again, this is going to be painted in Mudbox on the surface of the model, not baked, not using tiling textures. So the seams are in some ways negligible. However, you do want to just keep general practice there, not to have seams for no reason or have them all over the place. Put them in corners, things like that makes life easier. Okay, let's try unwrapping that again, and it looks like it came out nice. Preview a checkerboard on it and scale that down, and got a little orange going on somewhere around here. You can see it blew it here because of how I have it cut. Let me see if I can't spot that on the model. Fortunately, nope, there it is. So let's hold control and get rid of it. So it's overlapped there, and there's no other way for it to figure that out. So just to help it out, oops, I'm going to be on edge mode. Just going to help it by cutting there. It doesn't like inside curves that also curve out. No unwrap program does, or manually unwrapping. It's hard to do those in general. These tools that we get, let me help this here by separating the grip right there. Okay, cut it again and let it do its unfold magic. And that's good. Looks clean. You can see it packed it. It's not the greatest packer in the world. You can see what it did here. Overlapped. However, that's because of the way that it's connected, which is pretty much due to the fact that that edge is sending it this way. This edge is sending it that way, and you can see it's now officially crossing over. So the simple fix is to just cut one of them off. And there, that's fixed. So all I gotta do is hit save. And then I go back to Max. I can now actually delete that object and import. And it comes in, names it as an unfold 3D object, and just hit import. And there you have it. Now if I look at the unwrap here, it is good. If I go to hide the map, you see it's the same thing. Okay. Packed it okay. It's not the greatest packer, like I said. I can definitely make better use of this, but I've got more to go into it. So I'll just convert that back to editable poly. Just unhide all. And I'll get this top piece. I like to it's going to overwrite. I don't need to save a million copies of anything, because I can just now go here and save files, reload, and now I'm starting fresh on my new object. You can see I got edges inside here that I could most certainly get rid of, which I didn't catch the first time. So what I'm going to do is just go around this guy. It wants to create the shortest route possible from any edge to edge, just like Max does, but it doesn't always know what I want it to do, because it is a filthy machine and I am the supreme creature of the planet. So just keep going around. I don't have to split this entirely because it being a relative box, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So I get easier ability for me to separate it and pack all my UVs in to make the best use that I possibly can of my texture space. I want to maximize how much I can get out of it, because even though I will be providing a 4096, I myself am going to be using this weapon in my game. And I am not going to be using a 4096, I will be using a 2048 because I'm not going that high in the reso, but if you needed it, you have it for the 4096 once I've painted it up. And like I said, I will show that in speed paint mode, not making a tutorial on how to paint textures. It's beyond the scope. Okay, I think that might be enough. And it looks good. I want to check this to make sure. Yeah, see, we got crossover here, and I expected that. So if I pick that edge, it's this guy. So I'm just going to cut these off. Thin strips aren't good, but overlapping are worse than thin strips. Okay. I don't know what that is. Oh, that's the barrel. Inside of the barrel. Which I can actually delete those faces, but I didn't really go through and manage what I can delete yet, so it's no biggie. Files, save. Okay, I'll go back to Max here. Can delete it. Just import. And hit import. And it says, oh, you got the same name. I said, okay, don't care. Okay, same thing. Unwrap is good. I can take these two objects and hide them. And now I can pretty much grab all that. Overwrite again, no biggie. Don't need to keep that original sent out version. And let's just go files, reload. And now I can unwrap all these together. Okay, oop, missed that one. Sometimes it'll be a little difficult to see. All I need to do here is hit these corners, and then we'll unwrap magically. However, do need to break it like that once. That will stay one solid object. Trigger, I'm going to go ahead and just go around it. And again, I apologize for not using a standard application for doing this, but over the course of 15, 20 years of doing this now, I just can't stomach it anymore. I can't do unwrap without going crazy. I lose my mind. I've got a wireframe here. So anything I can get to make it faster, I will grab. and this Unfold 3D program is definitely faster for me. You may have methods that just smoke this and make me look stupid, but I don't care. Go for it. Use what you know. Use what you're good at. Just pop that off. I'm going to delete this face anyway. It's no biggie. Okay, I'm going to get the mag. Main thing is to split it off of the plastic. The other thing is when you know that you're going to have a separate material, such as plastic versus metal, and the polygons are connected, at least when you are doing Mudbox, I don't know about ZBrush because it's been a while since I've used it, you most definitely want to split those, even though, this could be seamless. You don't want it to be seamless because you want to be able to unfold the model to UV space and easily and quickly paint the metal versus the plastic and keep a sharp, perfect seam. If you keep them together in your UV template, you end up having to manually paint what tends to be a pixel border between the two surfaces. So you have to not only do it by hand, but you're stuck in this nightmare of trying to manually line that up, and you end up shaky hand, bleeding over it, and having problems. But if you break it in the UVs by polygons, then you are golden. You can just paint on one and then paint on the other, and you never breach the seam. So let me check this. Looks good. Unwrapped, nice. Files, save. Now I'm going to have to probably do this again for the, I keep doing that, for the high-res version, but that's okay. Delete that because it's quick. So import the Unfold version. The import's going to say the same name. Just hit OK. Unhide all. And now these are unwrapped, ready to be combined into one template that's nicely and easily paintable, and I'm good to go. So there's the low res. Actually, I saved that as high res, so let me save that as the low res again real quick. Yes, and then save as again so that I'm permanently on the high res version. And that's good to go. Now, one of the problems with saving out to an OBJ and coming back into Max with an import is you do lose your smoothing groups, so you gotta hit auto smooth again. However, this guy, for the most part, aside from some of these bits, I'll just go ahead and auto smooth it. I can fix that. Any issues that arise, such as here, you see I got smoothing group 1, and these didn't end up on smoothing group 1, so I just pick these. All these guys, and stick them on 1, get them out of their other groups. And I can pretty much take all that and set that on 1. They were split into group 3. I think this guy back here I probably want on group 2. However, let me see what else got put on group 2 real quick. Nothing that connects to it, so that's fine. So this is group 1. Let me see what happens if I take these and stick them on 1 as well. Get in here. Might make some uglies. That's what you gotta watch out for. Are the uglies. It's not too shabby. It's nice and sharp up there. Okay, for now it's fine. Like I said, once this gets dark and black and it's got specular and normals and everything on it, it's really not going to look that awful. And for the low-res model, at best you're going to get a black texture. I need to focus more heavily on the higher res model in terms of texturing it. So unless I can pull off adding detail without breaking the unwrap, which is going to be slightly difficult, I will be focusing mostly on the unwrap for the high-res model. I mean, at least, you know, the texture. I will, however, go in and coat this with a general black metal versus black plastic, give you a specular separation and things like that. The good news, and you know, could be considered bad news as well, is that the Glock is pretty much black. I mean, there's black metal and there's black plastic, and that's it. Aside from the normal map detail, the surface itself really could just be, you know, a single parameter, you know, a vector parameter if you wanted to. Now if you wanted to coat it with dirt and grime and engravings and photos, or you wanted to make it silver with some fruity, flowery crap going on it, then yeah, you need to, you know, you paint it with more colors. But I don't think I've ever seen a silver Glock. I've seen a brown and brassish ones. Seen some light tan ones, but you know, if you want to stay with your traditional Glock, you're going to be black, and really that's equals you know, practically zero texture information. It's just black, you know, and that's what it is. You may need to do silver for the inside of the mag, but I've seen in some of these pictures that the mag is black too, you know. There's not even really different tones of it. What it is different specular values and glossiness values. Here it's brutally close, you know. Okay, yeah, there's a silver bit here which we can add. You got the bullets and things like that, which we will stick on the unwrap, but in general terms, there's not going to be a lot going on with the diffuse texture. It's going to be mostly in the normal map and the specular map. So when I get to that, like I said, it's just going to be speed painting it. And I have no idea yet if I can use the same texture for the high res as the low res. I'll try to keep the unwraps as similar as possible, but I won't be going back in and making major reworks of the low res version. There's a couple things I can do real quick just to help out the smoothing groups here. Minor edits. Just gonna delete these edges here and use optimize to create a more across. Let me hide unselected so I can not see that plane. If I don't hit control backspace, this is backspace, it just gets rid of the edges. The edges are technically still there, they're just no longer polygon borders. Let me get rid of that guy too. Go to optimize and connect that, and you'll see that that's going to be a lot better. Smooth a lot better. Okay, you can still see, if you catch an angle, you can still see these edges going across like that, but it will be a lot less noticeable in game once you got the normals on there and the specular, and there's bumpy stuff going through it as well. Those lighting artifacts that you see here where it's zigzagging this black is going to be a lot less noticeable. Unfortunately, 3D, unless I went, 200,000 polygons, it's very hard to avoid this when you're doing a relatively low res model. These lighting artifacts are just inherent. They always have been, ever since I can remember, which, like I said, is dating back 15 years now or something. I've never been able to truly figure it out. All you can do is help it as much as you can with your smoothing groups. So there is the low res Glock. Let me help it out a little bit here by going a little darker. And I didn't do anything. So if I pick black, maybe it has a material assigned or something. Oh, maybe I just didn't select it. Nope. Weird. Don't know why that's happening, why I can't change the color. It's acting as if I have a standard material applied to it. So if that's the case, why don't I just go ahead and darken the actual material that's on there. Yeah, it did look like it got a funky material applied. I'm going to darken that some more. And if we go specular level here, we can get some highlights on it. That's too much. Okay. Looks okay for a low res. So hopefully you were able to follow along what I did. And if you want to keep going with the high res one, then load the next video.